In that match, Cedric, briefly, what did you make of this I think this has been the most entertaining match in AFCON so far.
You know why I'm laughing? I'm still so happy to see Cedric Bakambu actually still energetic and bringing the value that we need from such kind of caliber of a player. Remember him now trading at Galatasaray. Yes. At some point in 2019, he was Africa's most expensive player. Yes. And remember that particular time, it was his prime time that we would have been seeing Bakambu doing what he's doing currently. But I think as soccer, they define soccer, you grow by age. Right now, maybe he has matured and he knows how to settle in front of goals. And if you see by how he really gave out that particular assist, he could have taken it by himself. But that composure in front of goal, and he really thought very far to see that if I place this ball maybe just in front of goalkeeper, the likes of Wissa will be there to latch on and give them an equalizer, which and again came with value now that they were really trailing Zambia.
What did you make of Kings Kangwa's goal?
Kings Kangwa, I think the quality that Zambia is lacking currently, just like is that quality of Kings Kangwa. They are lacking the quality of Halucia Boile that we really saw in 1994, just immediately after that plane crash that their team had. He came in and he bring the value that like Kings Kangwa has brought into this particular team. When the team is low and the team is not really quite reasoning well, that's kind of decision that you need to make. Don't just every time that you get the ball and try running around with it, allowing the defenders to occupy their space and maybe bringing that barrier that will not give you goals. You remember, it was a throw-in. And before anyone really settled their mind, he just thought that now the goalkeeper was off his line. He just thought of placing that ball behind the net, and that gave Zambia that 1 point that they really still needed in that particular match, given that the contest was not in their favor. And that essence of him playing in Red Star Belgrade, which a team that has been really gracing UEFA, Champions League, really gave him that exposure and value he needed to bring in Africa Cup of Nations.
So, I want us to quickly run through the results from round one of the Africa Cup of Nations 2023 taking place in Ivory Coast. The hosts got a 2-0 win against Guinea-Bissau. It was a 1-1 draw between Nigeria and Equatorial Guinea, 2-2 draw between Mozambique and Egypt. Ghana lost 2-1 to Cape Verde. Senegal got a 3-0 win against Gambia, as Cameroon settled for 1-1 draw against Guinea. Now, in the other fixtures that were played, it was a 1-1 draw for Angola against Algeria. Burkina Faso got a 1-0 win against Mauritania. Namibia got a 1-0 win against Tunisia, with Mali getting a 2-0 win against South Africa, as the Atlas Lions of Morocco got a 3-0 win against Tanzania, and Congo settled for 1-1 draw against Zambia. That is the results, those are the results from round one of the Africa Cup of Nations. So, Cedric, today we have 3 fixtures on the cards. I want us to take a look at those fixtures on the cards, and we'll be running through these quickly. And Egypt will be taking on Ghana. Now, I want us to settle here before we take a look at the other fixtures. I want us to settle here. All eyes will be on Mo Salah and Jordan Ayew. What are you expecting from these two players, Cedric?
It's a crack of the match, and I think they have actually too much pressure from their country. Everyone, as you say, from their country alone, even us, will be looking upon them if they can really carry their team out of the woods. Because remember, this team, at some point, given whatever the result they registered, they are so precarious to an element that they don't know if they can really proceed in that particular group. Whatever they need to do today, I think, aid of the side, they need to win.
These are the statistics, Cedric. I mean, there are people who have been prolific for the country. You take a look at the Mo Salah statistics: 95 appearances, 54 goals, 32 assists. For Jordan Ayew, 96 appearances for Ghana, 19 goals, 10 assists. I mean, going into this game, which team is under more pressure? Is it Egypt or Ghana?
But I think Egypt is under more pressure given to the essence that they have been in final for the recent years compared to Ghana. And I think they need this particular tournament more than Ghana, and even given the squad that they are presenting. And this squad that Egypt is presenting currently in this particular tournament, some of them, they are about to retire. These are the players that need actually to celebrate themselves before they retire out of this particular tournament. Unlike Ghana, I think it has a gel of youngsters.
Transition.
Yeah, transition gel stars and maybe an experienced player. And also, if you go by the statistics, if the statistics are to carry the day, then Egypt need to come out triumph in this particular contest. And also, remember, who are these kind of players that will be playing just in that front three? You are talking about Mo Salah,
when talking about the front three, so let's take a look at the players to watch for Egypt. And as you rightly mentioned, you have Mo Salah right there. You have Mo Salah, you have Mustafa Mohamed, and Omar Mahamouche. What are you expecting from these two guys that are supporting cast for Mo Salah?
These are a little trio, if you ask me. It's a little trio that where Mo Salah fails to score, these guys, they have been actually a thorn in each and every team they have faced before, even before this Africa Cup of Nations tournament. You go by the Mustafa Mohamed, we just said their first match, where Mo Salah's space was denied. He's the one actually who opened up those chances for Egypt, and even he was on the card scoring the goal. You go by the Mamouche, he has that element of carrying the ball. He's a good ball carrier, and by so doing, and even at some point, he can hold on that ball, actually inviting the opponent, creating more space for Mo Salah to run, because given space, Mo Salah can become a threat because he's a good, actually, a target hitter. He can pick the ball at any given, and he can drive the ball into the danger area, which, and again, can really give Egypt even a penalty. And those are the kind of the trial that you need to be playing around, whereby if chances are so slim to you as a star, even them, they can open up and give you the deservable 3 points.
For Ghana, aside from taking a look at Jordan Ayew, you have the likes of, Inaki Williams, you have Antoine Semenyo. What are you expecting from Semenyo, to be specific? We saw what he could do in the first game that they lost to Cape Verde. But what are you expecting from him in this time?
There are two characteristics, even if you see them trading in their club, that really are so conspicuous about these two lads. You realize that the likes of Jordan Ayew, he like holding on the ball and making too much runs into the pitch. But if you go by the Semenyo actually is a one-notch kind point of a player who is always thinking of how to scoring. To me, is more of transiting into a tactical striker, a striker who does not think twice before he scores. And that's why I think he had that chance of even getting into the scoreboard for Ghana. And at the moment that he's really playing at Bournemouth, I think also has given them the much needed experience to grace such a bigger tournament like Africa Cup of Nations. If you go by Inaki Williams,
he came on in the second half for Ghana.
And that's where the question that we happen to ask when the Ghana actually released the squad that graced for them. I think Ghana, they were somehow underrated that particular match, and they were so surprised to realize whatever
the damage had already been done.
Exactly. When they brought in the likes of Inaki Williams. These are a player who should not be starting from the bench when they are fit. Put them on the bench when they are carrying injuries. But if they are fit, they are a player who need, leave alone even how they play, that much needed experience, the place of playing on the highest level of the stage is needed from this kind of the player too. Remember, he was in the World Cup. And McHugh, he's a player who just really ceded his allegiance to come and play for Ghana to the spirits that he wasn't really being given the much needed chance to play for Spain. His brother is currently playing for Spain. If he can happen to do such kind of justice to our country, why to carry him and put him on the bench?
And the other fixture that will be on the cards this evening, of course, we'll see Nigeria taking on Ivory Coast, the hosts, against Nigeria, three-time African champions. Now, I want us to quickly go to the players to watch this evening for these two teams. We begin with the Ivory Coast, and you have the likes of Frank Kessie, you have Ibrahim Sangare, and Jeremy Boga. What are you expecting from these players, Cedric?
See, Sangare being a holding midfielder, Kessie at some point plays as a holding midfielder, but he's not that much needed for offensive. They will be eye to destroy midfield. And remember, the Nigerian midfield is not comparable to this midfield if you go by how they have played for their last one match. I think if this guy happened to dominate that midfield for Ivory Coast, Fofana will be getting the likes of space that is needed, and Bonga.
Even Crasso.
To put in goals that Ivory Coast. And that's the threat that Nigeria should be aware of, how to control that pack of midfield. If the likes of Iwobi start doing their really necessary runnings, getting balls and running, and without even thinking, misplacing passes, these guys will be there to punish them. Remember, Sangare in the previous Africa Cup of Nations, he has not been the same Sangare that we are seeing currently. I think something has happened to him. And I remember at some point I castigated him in 2019, I think 2021 Africa Cup, because he was nowhere. And anytime he would come from bench, it was actually a mess in that particular team. But he has matured. We saw what he did in the first match. He can hold on ball, he can create that space that is needed, and if get support from the likes of Frankie Kessie, then Ivory Coast, I feel so sorry for Nigeria.
Now that you feel so sorry for Nigeria, let's take a look at the players we expect to shine for Nigeria this evening. Victor Osimhen, Alex Iwobi, Moses Simon.
I know all eyes will be on Victor Osimhen.
Yes.
But again, we need to agree. All of us, we know how soccer is played. So soccer is made up of 11 players.
Yes.
This support is needed actually to be anchored in all departments to perform. The defensive department, midfield, which are the ball carriers, yes, and some points supporting the defense, and then the offensive. Yes. Offensive, which is actually being aligned around Victor Osimhen, yes, heavily depends on how the midfield defends. And that's why I mentioned midfield about when I was talking about Ivory Coast. This team, for Osimhen to give them goals, they need to control the midfield. And the midfield, when it controls, it means that it need to prevent pressure going to their defense and carrying balls to Osimhen. Yes. Osimhen presented with chances, I tell you, given 2, 3, 4, 5 chances, he will give you 2 goals out of 5 chances. And that's a kind of a striker that you need. And we have seen him doing that at Napoli. We have seen him doing that even to Nigeria, this Nigerian team. Yes. Just give him balls, allow him to run, give him space that he's needed, allow the defender, actually lock the defender away from reducing his space, then he will be ready to give you goals. But if that doesn't happen at the midfield, that's how I said, if these guys, they cannot dominate the likes of Frank Kessie, the likes of Sangare, yes, then it will be done for them. And remember, if they lose today's match, they forget about Africa Cup of Nations. I think it will be the worst for Nigeria to have really locked out of group stages in Africa Cup of Nations, yes, since 1984.
Yes, the other match, of course, will be between Equatorial Guinea and Guinea-Bissau. Who's winning this match, Cedric? This will be at 5 p.m. Kenyan time. Who's winning this?
Going by how they have played their first match, I think Equatorial Guinea will win against Guinea-Bissau.
Equatorial Guinea will win against Guinea-Bissau. Now, Nigeria versus Ivory Coast, who's winning?
Ivory Coast will win.
Ivory Coast will win. And of course, the big one, Ghana against Egypt.
Egypt will win against Ghana. Ghana has not been on the particular form that much, yes, would expect. And if you go by their first match result, of course, although team starts very low, yes, Egypt will still win. Egypt will still win. Thank you very much, Cedric Msuba, for giving us insights on what to expect this evening. Remember, we have 3 matches on the cards at 5 p.m. We'll see Equatorial Guinea take on Guinea-Bissau. We'll be waiting to see how